from the WHBC Broadcast Center. Find out more about area businesses, agencies, and events.
It's what's going on right now.
This is Spotlight.
All right, Spotlight on your Wednesday morning. Happy Wednesday, everyone. And, of course, today we are live on Facebook, as we always are on Wednesdays for Facebook, for Spotlight. And today we have Dominic Fonte and Associates, Cutler Real Estate, in studio with us. How are you, sir?
I'm great, Pam. How the heck are you with this 100th anniversary of the WHBC experience?
Celebrating.
100 years, that's shocking.
I know. And I always say, even when I look back to, I've been here 36 years, even when I look prior to that, I mean, that's only 36 years. There's still 70 more years before that, It's
shocking. And you know what, with the technology changes that are happening, I mean, it's just like newspaper, radio. Is that a thing of the past, or is this still a popular thing? I hear a lot of advertisements, so it must be, right?
It's popular. They say that the trend is younger folks like to have it in their car because it's so automatic.
Right.
And happens so quickly. It's up to date. We always say one of the best things about radio is its immediacy. So
not only that, it's local. And I think a lot of times with our the busyness and the chaos that happens, it's hard to take time to dig deeper. And I think a lot of times when you have those local radio stations like yours, what I think is great about it is you get to hear the local news, how it affects you in your backyard.
Yep, absolutely. And I heard Jim Johnson was on one of our promos here earlier this morning, which made me a little sad, made me miss JJ a lot. But, it's always cool to have him getting his voice back on the airwaves. So.
Right, nice. So anyhow, the listeners out there, I don't know if you have a Facebook feed where someone can text in or email in, or what do you call it? Text in? Go ahead.
Message us on Facebook. They just have to go to our Facebook page and like it, which is 1480 WHBC.
Okay.
They'll see the video. They'll see us sitting here. And they can post a question right to us.
So if anybody's out there that would have a question about the confusing market with real estate, buying, selling, investing, is it a good time to downsize, upsize, right size, wrong size, whatever, rent? Mm-hmm. I just think it's really important because it is a bit confusing, even for agents. Today, I think it's frustrating to try to figure out what's really going on. So maybe today we can clear the muddy water a little bit with the listeners. And like I said, Billy, if you see anything in the background, Billy's hiding behind the scenes, but he'll be watching if anybody wants to send in a question.
Yeah, please do. We'd love to hear from you, and I know that Dom will have a great answer for you and help you out, because he always does.
We'll sure try.
So let's talk about it. I mean, is this a good time to buy a home in Stark County? What are we looking at?
Well, it depends on your situation. So I would always say it's a personal thing, obviously. The things that I'm hearing and people are hearing because of headlines. And you have to always drill down a little deeper, and that's what I was alluding to with the local radio station. You want to deal with your local real estate experts so that you can get really what's happening and how it will affect you. So is it a good time to buy? Good question. It just depends because, if some people have cash, it's always a good time to buy. You can negotiate. Cash is king. But a lot of people, they have to get financing, right? So 70% of the people, I would say, have to get some kind of financing. And so the perception of it is that the rates are really high right now. So if I have to get a loan, that's going to cost more. The housing prices are more expensive. So I think the important thing is you have to look at your internal situation, if your family, your loved ones, and, decide if it's right for you. I have a checklist. We go through a 15-step process to make sure the pluses outweigh the minuses if it's right for you, and then you make that decision. But honestly, it's a personal decision, and I would recommend talking to your real estate professional. If you don't have one, reach out to me, and I'll be more than happy to do a needs analysis and help you figure out if it is right for you. But, I think the other thing I run into a lot is if you don't have the vision or the wherewithal, and I think that's partly where I come in, is I have a booklet that shows you before and after. So in other words, if you walk into a house and, you're like get overwhelmed with how much work it may need or you think it needs, there's a little sweat equity component there. And so I think a lot of times you want to look at that. And maybe another component to look at is the buy down So when you buy a home, if the rates are, say, hovering around 6.5 to 6.75 right now, conventionally, if you're a veteran, that rate's below 6 right now. It's like 5.8. So there's a lot of nuances, I guess. And I would recommend, again, you want to talk to someone that's savvy, that understands the local market, that understands situations, because you don't always need 20% down. And sometimes I think people will wait and hit pause because it's just a lot. Yeah. And so you need a guide. You need someone that's savvy. That would be my recommendation.
Yeah, it's too confusing.
It's a needs
to do it
analysis, really.
Yeah.
But it's real estate in the long view. I think always what you want to always look at, I think, you always look at your personal finances situation and then get educated. And then once you're educated about all the options, then you pick the one that gives you the most calm. And really, the agent's job is to kind of navigate that with you, help walk through and hold your hand through that process. So there is an opportunity out there for everybody. It's just you have to make sure you're looking east for the sunrise, not the sunset.
So the checklist thing sounds great, because that really can clear your mind. And do you find that people are fearful right now? They're a little afraid to make any kind of a move?
Yes, because I think when you think about real estate, and I've said this before when we've been on the show, it's most expensive, it's most emotional, and then a lot of times what adds the third dimension to it would be, let's say you have a life-changing event. You're going through a rough spell with your marriage. You have an illness, maybe a job loss. Maybe one of your, someone involved in this might have dementia. I mean, I'm seeing everything and anything, and especially as we get into our 60s, 70s, and 80s. So it's just a unique dynamic, and I just think, honestly, a professional guide is going to calm the waters and help you see clearer if it makes sense to you. But I would say people are afraid to make a mistake. That's the biggest issue, because it's a big, expensive thing, and you can't afford to recover sometimes. So whenever you're thinking about it, you always want to look at the long view and try to project out 10 years minimum. So if you're planning on moving in a year and you buy a place and you want to sell it in a year, there's a good chance you may not recover all your funds back, because it takes time. Yeah. And so that's an important thing. So you always want to make sure, and this is what I always do with everybody, is you kind of look at your personal situation and get it out of your head on paper, and you look at, okay, so what would be the plus if I do it now, even though my perception is the rates are higher, maybe the costs are higher. So there are ways to maneuver around that to get into the game, but I would say it's the pluses and minuses. You write it out, yeah, and then you look at it, because a lot of times real estate's emotional. So I think sometimes we get our feelings in the way, and we act on our feelings, and then we have anxiety after that. So I think, methodically speaking, you write down each one of the pluses in your lifestyle, your mind, and what you think the minuses are, and then let it stew on it a little bit. And then if you work through all that and you consult properly, then at that point you reevaluate, and if it makes sense, the pluses outweigh the minuses, then with calm, even though it's a little out of your comfort zone, because we don't do this very often. Yeah. What you do is then, in your heart and in your mind with logic, not just with emotions, that the decision I'm going to move forward with, maybe buying a home, is the right decision for me and my loved ones. And with the pluses outweighing the minuses, in your heart and in mind that you're not going to Vegas and gambling away your life savings. So it's a very methodical way. I've been doing this now 37 years. I helped over 2,600 families go through the process. And I can tell you that if you have a good guide, the experience will be positive, as long as you're looking always at the long view. That's the important thing, unless you're an investor, you're doing something else, which is a whole nother conversation.
And you had mentioned down payments.
Yeah.
You look at whatever house, maybe there's a house you see you like, you figure out in your brain, what's your down payment going to need to be, and that may scare people off, but it's not always the same, right? No. I mean, the shocking thing about this, and most agents aren't even aware of this, and of course the buyers aren't aware of it, sellers aren't aware of it, but there's over 2,400, think about that, 2,400 assistance or community or low down payment or special grant programs
for buyers. Now, there's qualifications, obviously. It's income sometimes. Maybe it's, what part of the city it's located in. There's a lot of, but 2,400.
Wow.
Now, if you had access to that and you looked in your jurisdiction, so let's say you want to be in Stark County, Summit County, anywhere in Ohio, Columbus, wherever, you just look in that radius or zip code and see, okay, what kind of plans are available. There's a website. I don't have it at the top of my tongue right now, but if someone's interested, reach out to me and I'll be more than happy to look it up. But these down payment assistance programs, I think even when I was growing up, I had this thought in my head, if I were to buy conventional, for example, conventional loan, I always thought it had to be like 20% down. So if you're buying a $200,000 house, for example, or a $300,000 house, that's $20,000, $40,000, $60,000. Well, who has $60,000 laying around when a lot of people are just struggling to get through the day, if not the month?
Yeah.
So I think, when I was looking at the rates right now, so let's say on a conventional, they do have programs where you can buy a conventional loan with 3% down. But normally, I think the common folks that are up to date on this, they look at 5, 10, or 20% down. And so that would be a conventional, and that's usually sold to the secondary market. You'll hear Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, or Ginnie Mae. And if you ever hear those names, trust me, it's a dysfunctional family. But it's how the mortgage company and the banks, they buy it at a certain rate, they sell it to you for a certain rate, and they make a little profit on the yield spread plus closing costs. So it's a little deeper in the weeds there, but more importantly is if you buy FHA or VA, and FHA would be 3.5% down. So technically, if you're looking at your checklist, the pluses and minuses, and say, for example, you're thinking, well, I might need to wait another 1 or 2 years to save more money, right, because of what your perception is.
Yeah.
If you were in a mental state with the right guidance, and let's say you wanted to buy FHA or VA, so you could then get into the real estate arena with 3.5% down, right? And then with the appreciation has been averaging between 3 and 5% a year, because if you wait 2 years, then it's going to be, probably a bit more expensive. We don't know about the rates at this point, what's going to happen. I think, they're hovering around 6.5%. But you can get in the game.
Yeah.
And it seems like, well, if I don't put enough down, or my payment's going to be too high. So I always do the comparison chart. Like if you're saying, okay, if you wait 2 years, and let's say the values of the house that you're interested in goes up, 5% a year, 4% a year, and the rates come down just a little, then, you waited all that time to save that money. And so now you're getting into the arena at a higher cost. So, but that's okay if you're not ready. So that's why I have you go down through the exercise, because it's not only financial, but it's very emotional. And so we want to make sure as you consider the arena of this, because it's a little bit intimidating, you want to make sure you have a counselor, a trusted advisor that is in tune with all these things I'm telling you. And then you will be that happy, informed decision maker, I promise you.
Yes, and be a homeowner.
Yeah, eventually. That's the goal.
Eventually, yes.
Yep.
All right, we are going to take our first break, and of course, this is Spotlight on your Wednesday morning. Dominic Fonte and Associates, Cutler Real Estate, will be back on 1480 WHBC.
News Talk 1480 WHBC, celebrating 100 years of broadcasting excellence.
Congratulations and happy 100th anniversary. I grew up listening and still do. A favorite memory? Listening at work on Fridays when Paul Harvey would say, "Good morning, Americans. It's Friday," and we would all cheer at the same time. Also loved hearing Jim Johnson's sports reports. Thanks for the tradition of great radio broadcasting and keeping us informed, your favorite listeners.
1480 WHBC.
Wow, real estate headlines, interest rates, inflation, it's all very confusing.
There's a lot at stake when selling your home. You need an expert. I'm Dominic Fonte, your local Cutler Realtor. Call me at 330-418-1535 or go to DominicFonte.com.
Dominic Fonte and Associates with Cutler Real Estate. Trusted, respected, recommended. DominicFonte.com. Knowledge is power.
Tune in each Saturday morning at 8 a.m. for the Money Matters radio show. Find out how today's economy, debt levels, and policies affect your hard-earned money. You've made your money. Now it's time to watch it grow. Tune in to the hour-long Money Matters radio show every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. right here on News Talk 1480 WHBC. To speak to Bob Fowdy or Dave Ryan about your money matters, call New Horizon Financial Group in Canton at 330-499-1915. 330-499-1915.
Happy Easter, everybody! Hop into Ben Heggie's Candy Factory for all your Heggie's Easter favorites, because fresh-made chocolate straight from the factory just tastes better. Plus, you can choose from their entire selection of chocolate eggs, including fudge, with or without nuts, peanut butter, solid chocolate Easter bunnies, and dark and milk chocolate, jelly beans, pre-made Easter baskets, and more. Heggie's Candy Company, 743 Cleveland Avenue Northwest, right across the street from St. Peter Church in Canton. Happy Easter, everybody!
Washy-washy means savey-savey at Bell Stores. When you purchase a car wash during your fuel transaction, you will automatically save 15 cents per gallon. Now that is a lot of savings. You'll love Bell Store's state-of-the-art washing system with 4 heated, high-pressure water washing options. There's no excuse for dirty. Wash and save today at Bell Stores. Ohio-owned and keeping the family on full.
Carpet Time's a place to buy. Go there today. You'll cheer and rave at the money you save. Buy at Carpet Time.
Hi, I'm Joel Primack. At Carpet Time, we don't make the flooring we sell. We just make the flooring beautiful in your home. Remember, we're not just carpet. We're vinyl, ceramic tile, wood, and laminate flooring, and much more. Visit us at Lincoln Way East at Genoa Road in Perry, or Belton Village Street across from Red Lobster. And remember, I discount every floor every day. You'll get my personal guarantee.
Buy at Carpet Time.
Visit us at our Perry Maslin store on the corner of Lincoln Way and Genoa, or at our Belton Village store across from Red Lobster. Like us on Facebook or online at carpettime.com. One word, one T, that's carpettime.com.
Carpet Time's a place to buy. Go.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Why'd I go to the doctor? One day at the firehouse, I was so lightheaded I could barely stand. Even my crew noticed. Getting checked out was the right call. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit NoTimeToWait.com, sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there's more time to explore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive, with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com.
Now back to Spotlight on 1480 WHBC.
Spotlight on this Wednesday morning. Dominic Fonte and Associates, Cutler Real Estate. Dominic Fonte in studio with us this morning, and we are live on Facebook taking your questions. If you want to leave a question for us, we will give it to Dom, and he can answer it. And one of the questions folks ask a lot is buyers or sellers market, and what does that really mean?
That's a good one. So when you hear the headlines, so again, I always talk about, do you go deeper in and figure out what's really going on, which is hard to do if you're not an expert researcher. But you can use those how do you say it? Chat
GPT.
So you could use those things to help you, which is the AI. But if you talk to the local experts, so real estate in Florida, I hear, is not as exciting now because there's a lot of properties for sale. So if you're looking in certain parts of Florida, it might be a better time to buy, and it's more of a buyer's market there. But if you look in your own backyard, so let's say you live in Stark, Summit, or the surrounding areas, you want to look really close within a few mile radius of your home if you're looking to sell, or if you're looking to buy, you can do the same thing. And I think what happens is it's always supply and demand. So like how many homes are on the market based on how many buyers. So I ran a report yesterday, because I do this every month because I want to know what's happening in Stark County. Because like when I hear these headlines that say there's more inventory, there's more homes on the market today than say last year, and also it's taking longer. So if it says there's more homes on the market, it's taking longer, I think my perception would be is maybe it's going to be a buyer's market, right? And we can negotiate. And I'm sick and tired of paying full price or over full price and you know, losing out to other multiple offers, which is a whole nother conversation. But technically in Stark County right now, and this is residential, so you know there's apartments, there's commercial, there's lots, and residential homes. So just in the residential department, as of March this year, we have 1.96 months of inventory. Last month, in February, we had 2.11, so just a little over 2 months of inventory. So in English, what that means is when you hear it's a buyer's market, seller's market, the guide to understand that would be is how many months of inventory are in our current market. So like, you know, we were talking off air, you know, 6 months to a year to sell a home.
Used to be.
Right. And so why that was is because we had, you know, 8 to 12 months of inventory. Well, now if we have 1.96 or under 2 months of inventory, that means it takes less than 2 months to burn off the inventory based on supply and demand, right?
Okay.
So if the market is 6 or 7 months is like where it shifts now to a buyer's market, we're at less than 2 months. So we need to be 6 or 7 months of inventory for it to flip to a buyer's market.
Okay, gotcha.
So whenever you, as a buyer or seller, you're trying to figure it out, you want to look really close to where you live, try to understand the absorption rate, like how many buyers, how many sellers. And so right now in Stark County, there's less than 2 months. So, you know, that means it's still favoring a seller. So therefore, if you're a buyer, you want to work with a savvy agent that can help you position your offer to win. I think one of the big things I'm hearing a lot about now is even though it's cooled down a little bit since COVID in those few years after, where it went up about 20% appreciation, it's hovering more about 3.5 to 4.5%, which is more normalized, okay? But if the house is in a great location, great condition, and priced right, you will probably still sell it for at or above list price. Now, I read an article recently that said 50% of the homes are selling less than asking price. Well, why do you think that is? Does anybody have a clue?
Are they pricing them too high?
Wow. This girl should be in real estate. I think everybody's in real estate. But anyhow, that's correct. So it's either the price or condition. So if you are looking at, you know, trying to figure this out, right, and you're a seller, so you're going to look at, okay, the market's pretty hot maybe, so maybe I don't need to do as much to my house to prep it and get ready to sell it. And in some cases, that's right. But I think to try to decide what to do or not to do, I mean, you could just clean it top to bottom and make it sparkle, and that will make an impact more than spending thousands upon, you know, thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So I think it's just really important just to understand, like I joked earlier, are we looking east for the sunrise or the sunset? And so it's just important to know, you know, and it also, the time of year makes a difference. So, you know, that could happen, and we're right up on what? April, May, and June. You know, which technically, I think from perception standpoint, a lot of people think, oh, that's a good time. And so, in fact, that is a busier time.
Yeah.
So I think there's just a few factors you want to think about is we're still favoring sellers. So that means if you're a buyer, it's a little harder. So you want to have a savvy agent to guide you through that process. If you're a seller, you want to know what little preparational things should you do. You don't have to overdo it. But if it flips to a buyer's market, then there's a lot more things you must do to be at least competitive with the supply and demand.
Wow.
In a nutshell.
And the little things are like paint and things like that, you know?
Well, like if you were curious, like I think did someone ask a question about that?
Yeah, they were saying if it's time for me to get things ready to sell my house, what things should I do?
Okay. So part of it is what time of year do you plan to do that? So let's pretend that you're going to do it either April, May, or June. Okay. So that's pretty recent. So the first thing you do is you say, okay, what's the market doing? What are we looking like in the market? Is it, still a strong, market for sellers? And if that's the case, then you have your consult with your agent or me if you need help. We come out and we take a look. And, a lot of times I think sellers are like, well, I'm not ready yet. Don't come out and look. Well, I can look past the usual stuff, right?
Yeah.
But then we would have a conversation of, okay, what would you really want to do? What would you need to do? In some cases, you only want to do the minimum. Well, that would be a good cleaning, right? Decluttering.
Mm-hmm.
And then, that's really about it. And maybe edging the front, a little bit of mulch, making sure your front door looks good, maybe put a pot of pretty colors out, and just make sure it smells good and fresh, and declutter. So you could probably get by in the market with that alone. Maybe clean the windows. If sun comes in, your kitchen window and it's all dirty, you want to make sure it feels relaxing. So if I'm having a cup of coffee or tea, and I'm enjoying it. And if you have outdoor space, make it exciting. The outdoor space is great for people nowadays. I think ever since COVID, people are really interested in their additional living space. I really see that a lot.
I would totally believe that, because that's like one of the first things I look at.
So that would be the surface stuff. And if the market in the next, say, 30, 60, or 90 days, you want to be cognizant of what the market's doing, because it shifts all the time. Like if something nationally happens, the stock market tanks, the 401s tank, or things are doing really well, there's not only how am I doing with my job and finances and family and loved ones and that kind of thing, but also how do I feel about my investments? How do I feel about the future part of the economy? If I feel there's opportunity, then I might feel more like taking a chance. On reverse of that, if I feel insecure or I'm not sure, I tend to hit pause and I sit on the sidelines. So that's why I think it's so very important to have a proper conversation. And a lot of times I think this is what my perception is of being in the business many years, is sometimes people won't call because they don't want to bother you, or they don't want to be bothered. So let's say, Pam, you're saying, you know what, I kind of want to, I've been hearing enough about this. I think I want to know more, but I don't want this guy to bug me, and call me and harass me and like keep pushing me. So I think it's important to just make sure you're having a conversation. And a conversation sometimes leads to decisions, right? And then sometimes you say, you know what, I think now that I had that chat and I understand it deeper, I think I'm just going to sit tight and do nothing and maybe just remodel my kitchen or my bathroom or repaint some things. So that would be on the shallow side. On a little bit deeper side, I would say, if to give you more opportunity if you're a potential buyer, is you look at sweat equity, which means you have to look past some of the decor things. So the strongest ROI, return on investment, in my opinion, would be light fixtures, of course, paint, right? Light fixtures, paint, flooring, which could be LVL. You hear like luxury vinyl, which is LVL. You'll hear that a lot. Carpeting's not that expensive. So basically, that's what you want to do, and then maybe countertops. So that's how you knock it out of the park. If you're going like a rehab, if you buy something you want to rehab, or if you're looking to get ROI, that would be a strong way to do return on investment.
All right. That's a lot of great tips there. And we're still taking your questions on Facebook. If you'd like to do that, please do. And we'll take our next break, and we'll be back on 1480 WHBC.
Wow, real estate headlines. Interest rates, inflation, it's all very confusing.
There's a lot at stake when selling your home. You need an expert. I'm Dominic Fonte, your local Cutler Realtor. Call me at 330-418-1535 or go to DominicFonte.com.
Dominic Fonte and Associates with Cutler Real Estate. Trusted, respected, recommended. DominicFonte.com. Knowledge is power.
All the chocolate treasures you hope to find in your Easter basket, made with such skill and care, you can taste it. Ben Wollenberg's Chocolates and Nuts, your Easter candy headquarters, 25th and Fulton Road, Northwest in Canton.
William is one of millions of Americans who uses GoodRx to save on the cost of their prescriptions.
My oldest daughter, Camilla, 2 days old, she had to have open heart surgery. All of a sudden, she's on 5 different medications. It adds up at the end of the month. Me and the pharmacist got so tight. She said, GoodRx save you a lot of money. Saving that extra $200-300 a month. We're able to do all these extra activities, so it puts less stress on our household, and it puts less stress on our pockets.
Download the free app or visit GoodRx.com and start saving today. GoodRx user compensated for their time. GoodRx is not insurance, but can be used instead of insurance.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Ferndale Water Experts has been a locally owned and family-operated business for over 65 years. For all your water treatment needs, call the name you can trust. Call Ferndale Water Experts.
Tap into Ferndale's Water Center.
WHBC AM Ken, reliable as ever on News Talk 1480 WHBC.
From the News Talk 1480 WHBC newsroom, a New Jersey judge upholding all charges against the man accused of hitting and killing a Columbus Blue Jackets star and his brother while they were riding bikes in August of last year. Lawyers for Sean Higgins were trying to get manslaughter and vehicular homicide charges dismissed or reduced. They argued that Blue Jackets star Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matthew had been drinking. They say that contributed to their deaths when they were hit and killed. The judge disagreed and said the, quote, blame the victim's defense would not wash. Higgins' next hearing set for June. He faces a maximum of 70 years in prison. American Airlines plans to offer free Wi-Fi starting in January for members of its Advantage loyalty program. JetBlue Airways and Delta already offer complimentary in-flight internet to their loyal program members. United Airlines is equipping its fleet with SpaceX's Starlink satellite Wi-Fi, which will be free for Mileage Plus members. In sports, the Guardians beat Baltimore 6-3. They'll play again tonight. You'll hear that game right here on 1480 WHBC. The first pitch is set for 6:35. And as the NHL gets ready for the Stanley Cup playoffs, the league wrapped up its regular season with some honors, naming the Penguins' Sidney Crosby as the best all-around player. I'm Pam Cook.
Your severe weather station, News Talk 1480 WHBC.
Here's your AccuWeather forecast. A brisk and chilly day in store as we have increasing amounts of sunshine throughout the day, getting to 47 degrees, and then we're clear overnight, dipping down to 30. Tomorrow's going to be milder, mix of clouds and sunshine, 62, cloudy and breezy for Friday, 74, and then we're cloudy with some showers Saturday. You can always check the latest weather news and forecast by downloading our free AccuWeather app. This is meteorologist Jeff Nordine for News Talk 1480 WHBC.
Can I get Mega Millions?
Good choice. Mega Millions is bigger than ever. Jackpots now start at $50 million and grow faster.
Sounds mega.
And now, every game has a built-in multiplier, so all non-jackpot prizes are multiplied between 2 and 10 times.
Bigger prizes, better odds, and just $5? Give me 2.
Mega Millions is bigger and better than ever. Get your tickets today at your local Ohio lottery retailer. Lottery players are subject to Ohio laws and commission regulations. Play responsibly.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out. Consult a doctor prior to use.
You look amazing. What have you been doing?
You've heard of Ozempic, Wegovy, and the other GLP-1 medications, right? Well, I found this great company called Zelfie. If you qualify, their providers can prescribe medications like Ozempic and Wegovy and other GLP-1 medications that are 80 to 90% less expensive, all 100% online.
I can get GLP-1 medications for 80 to 90% less and do it all online? No no doctor's office or pharmacy?
Yes, Zelfie can help provide you with semaglutide or tirzepatide, the active ingredients in Ozempic and other expensive GLP-1s, but for 80 to 90% less.
How do I get started with Zelfie?
Just send them a text.
Text TARGET to 200-300 to get started today with Zelfie to see if you're eligible. Get the same active ingredients in Wegovy or Ozempic, but for 80 to 90% less and 100% online. Don't wait. Text TARGET to 200-300 right now for a link to your exclusive offer. Text TARGET to 200-300. Target to 200-300.
Celebrating a century of broadcasting.
This is Tom Hamilton, WHBC, celebrating its 100th anniversary. Congratulations to everyone.
News Talk 1480 WHBC, celebrating 100 years of broadcasting excellence.
Now back to Spotlight on 1480 WHBC.
All right, it is a Wednesday morning. This is Spotlight, Dominic Fonte and Associates, Cutler Real Estate. And we've been having a great conversation about all the things involved with the possibility of selling your home or buying a home. It's funny, I was on a panel yesterday for Visit Canton with a lot of different, businesses and agencies and things like that. And they asked me what I felt was like the most important thing to talk about for them. And I said, experiences.
Right.
That is what people look at now.
I agree.
And we were just saying off the air, that is a very important thing for a person who's dealing with you, right?
Right. So if you're, let's just rewind just for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So think about most people that you've ever interacted with in your 36 years in the radio. You have family members, loved ones, friends that came and went in your life. If they bought real estate or sold real estate, more than likely it wasn't more than 2, maybe 3 times in their whole life. Right? Between 25 to 75 or 80, probably 2 to 3 times. So that can be a very stressful experience, couldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's a ton of moving parts. And just to give you an example, like let's say if you were buying today or in the last several years, there's a good chance if you have to get a loan, you probably need a lender, and it's hard to find the right lender. The lender could be a banker or a mortgage company, right? There's benefits to both, but this is what my thing is. So I'm very particular about the experience because if you're not doing it very often, it's the most expensive, most emotional, right? And if there's a life-changing event, I want it to be as smooth as humanly possible. Well, that's hard to do because there's a lot of moving parts. Yeah. For example, you buy a house, you got to negotiate it, and you have expectations and realities, right? And then once you do that, then there might be another agent involved in the experience based on their skill set. Then there's usually a home inspection. And what's the realistic expectations for the home inspector? What if they're not very good? What if they don't have very good bedside manner? And then the agent then deals with the repercussions of that. And then let's say you have the lender, and the lender's not very good. And when I say lender, it's not really the lender's the originator, the order taker. Like there's person that they fill out the paperwork, they do all the consultation with the lending. If those people aren't savvy, then that's going to be a bump in the road, right? Then an appraiser has to come out, right? And then let's say there's an issue with the appraisal. Maybe they have to repair stuff. Maybe the value didn't come in on what you paid for it. And now you have to deal with that hurdle, right? Once you get over all those hurdles, if you have well or septic, you got to have what's called point of sale on the septic. So you can't sell the home or buy the home without it passing the health department, right?
Yeah.
So there's a little logistics there. And then once all that's done and we get to the point where we're almost to the goal line, right?
Yeah.
And that can be taxing if you don't have a great experience. And then you have what's called escrow, which would be like a title company where they check the house that you're buying or selling. They check for liens, encumbrances. They got to make sure that everything is up to snuff. You get your title insurance, and then they coordinate all the parties to sign, disperse the funds, and then at that point it gets recorded and it's official. You're either a buyer or seller, right? And so a lot of times people say, well, how long does all that take? Well, first of all, if you can get to the goal line, it takes between 30 and 45 days. But as a guide, this is what I master. And if you're not sure about it, you can use AI and look me up, Dominic Fonte and Associates.
Yeah.
Or you could go to DominicFonte.com DOMINICFONTE.com. Read some reviews. We have over 525-star reviews that are going to experience what you're going to go through. Now, how this evolved, this experience I'm talking about, is as the guide. So I'm your guide. I only work with people that are the most up-to-date and dialed in, because if any of those little spokes in the tire break or they don't work properly, then the experience isn't pleasant for my clients and customers. So I am very particular about that. So I try to keep them dialed in to the whole experience. Now, some people, they're not really big internet people, or they don't want to do all that. So that might be a phone call conversation with the clients. And it's better to communicate with them before they ask and fester, because sometimes certain personalities think about things and they overthink about it. They don't really want to bother me, so they're festering, right?
Yeah.
So what I do is I put a video series together of the whole experience. What are the expectations? What to anticipate? Even there's a period in the real estate transaction where I call it quiet time. It might be a week without much communication, or 2 weeks, because the lender is doing their work, doing their verifications and going through the process. The title company is doing their lien search and they're getting prepared. So if the agent's not communicating with their client, then they're worried, like, what's going on? Like, what about the utilities?
Yeah.
What about the keys? What about this? What about that?
Yeah.
So I think, the idle mind sometimes can play tricks on us and get us all upset. And the agent may not even know about this. So since I've done this over 2,600 times, I perfected it to almost a science. And one of the things, if you read the reviews a lot, what you're going to hear a lot about is transparency, over-communication, different varieties of communication, so that before it comes into your head and you start thinking and festering, you already have the response or the answer. So that's, it's not an exact science, but it's similar to that. And so I think, honestly, when you have a real estate experience, it's expensive, it's emotional, and there's a lot of moving parts. And so you want someone that really understands it. And so when you work with those 6 parties involved in the transaction, buying or selling, including the other side, which is another real estate agent, you want to manage the expectations of what that looks like so that you have a smooth, calm, awesome experience. Because at the end of the day, my whole survival after all these years would be, would you recommend me? Mm-hmm. And sometimes if there's a miscommunication, maybe you wouldn't, right? So that's why, and that's right. You can't bat 1,000 all the time. Once in a while, there is a legitimate mistake. You try to solve it quickly, make it right, and move forward. But I would say, 98% of the time, 99% of the time, it's a flawless experience. But keep in mind, most expensive, most emotional, and if you have a life-changing event, that adds another dimension to the experience. So that's why I feel that to be your headlights in the dark, to be your GPS, you want to have an expert in your court. You need someone that understands it, and I've done it long enough. Word of mouth and referrals, 5-star reviews is the lifeblood of my business. So I'm very particular. I try to please 110%.
And just remember, it's going to be joyful for you.
Yeah. No, we want it to be
of all of that.
And putting it in the right context, that like when you do this for yourself, your family, your loved ones, whatever, it's more of a longer view. Like some people say, well, my kids are in kindergarten or preschool, and, I want to find a school district that I'm comfortable with, and I'll be there 12 years or even longer. So that's why I say long view. Long view is more than like a year. Yeah. It would be 5 to 7, but preferably, 5 to 10 year minimum. I would say whenever you're going to do this. Now, one of the things I see a lot of struggles with right now is the boomers. Actually, I'm a 65-year-old boomer. But anyhow, so I'm not quite there yet, but it's on my mind. A lot of people are struggling with, okay, so if it is a seller's market, right, and I really would like to downsize, but maybe I have to get a loan, these lower interest rates that I have currently on my home, it makes it harder for me to say, you know what, wow, I know I should move. I know I should downsize. I know I should get to one floor. I know I should do this or do that. And then I walk in the basement. I see, the grandkids or the kids' stuff on the shelves. My kid went through a divorce. Their stuff's on a shelf. And it almost gets overwhelming when you look through your house. You're just like, they're going to carry me out in the pine box. I am not going to do this.
And I'll let my kids handle it.
Right.
Yeah.
but I promise you just need to have a consult with your expert. And I'm telling you right now, it's a baby stepping process.
Mm-hmm.
And what I find is as we get older, it's a lot harder to deal with.
Oh, yeah.
And so the boomers are going to need some extra care right now. So I promise you, Mr. Boomer, Mrs. Boomer, if you're out there, please call me, 330-418-1535. Send me an email if you'd like it, Dominic@DominicFonte.com. Or if you're just a little insecure and you just need to know, go to DominicFonte.com. Click on reviews. It's my son and Zev and Nikki are my team. We run a very lean, mean fighting machine to maximize the results for our clients and our customers. And we want to make sure that they love it, refer us, and write a 5-star review.
All right, we'll take our final break. More with Spotlight right here on 1480 WHBC.
Wow, real estate headlines. Interest rates, inflation, it's all very confusing.
There's a lot at stake when selling your home. You need an expert. I'm Dominic Fonte, your local Cutler Realtor. Call me at 330-418-1535 or go to DominicFonte.com.
Dominic Fonte and Associates with Cutler Real Estate. Trusted, respected, recommended. DominicFonte.com. Knowledge is power.
Have you tried hands-free Skechers slip-ins yet? Because if you haven't, you're missing out on technology that changes how you think about shoes. First, these are not just regular slip-on shoes. They're not just a pair of loafers without laces. But what makes them different is the technology inside that lets you just step into them. There's a built-in hidden shoehorn that slides your foot in, so they look, feel, and wear just like a pair of shoes you're used to. Except you don't have to bend down, struggle to put them on, or touch them. Try them at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Why'd I go to the doctor? My heart would race just taking my son to practice. It didn't feel right. So I got checked out. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit NoTimeToWait.com. Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
It's tax season. By now, we're all a bit tired of numbers, but here's one you need to hear. $16.5 billion. That's how much money in refunds the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud last year. Now, here's a good number, $100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity's stolen, they'll fix it guaranteed. Save up to 40% in your first year with promo code CLAY. Visit LifeLock.com. That's LifeLock.com, promo code CLAY. Terms apply.
Workdays can be unpredictable, but your workwear shouldn't be. With the Cintas Apparel Plus program, you'll have freshly laundered garments for everyone on your team delivered every week. Cintas has workwear for just about any job imaginable, with high-performance fabrics and an uncompromising fit that stretches and moves with you. Don't leave looking and feeling good to chance. Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Springfest deals are still in full swing at Lowe's. Right now, get 5 bags of Stay Green Premium Color 2 cubic foot mulch for only $10. And get up to 40% off select major appliances. Plus, save up to $300 when you buy 2 or more select GE kitchen appliances of $396 or more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 4/16, excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Selection varies by location while supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details and qualifying items.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop, opt out. Consult a doctor prior to use.
You look amazing. What have you been doing?
You've heard of Ozempic, Wegovy, and the other GLP-1 medications, right? Well, I found this great company called Zelfie. If you qualify, their providers can prescribe medications like Ozempic and Wegovy and other GLP-1 medications medications that are 80 to 90% less expensive, all 100% online.
I can get GLP-1 medications for 80 to 90% less and do it all online? No doctor's office or pharmacy?
Yes, Zelty can help provide you with semaglutide or tirzepatide, the active ingredients in Ozempic and other expensive GLP-1s, but for 80 to 90% less.
How do I get started with Zelty?
Just send them a text.
Text TARGET to 200-300 to get started today with Zelty to see if you're eligible. Get the same active ingredients in Wegovy or Ozempic, but for 80 to 90% less and 100% online. Don't wait. Text TARGET to 200-300 right now for a link to your exclusive offer. Text TARGET to 200-300. Target to 200-300.
Now back to Spotlight on 1480 WHBC.
All right, Spotlight on this Wednesday morning. We've been chatting with Dominic Fonte and Associates, Cutler Real Estate. And we've been on Facebook Live. We still are right now. And question coming to us from Facebook, Dom, is, if I'm thinking about buying or selling a home, how do I get information? I'm taking it easy. I'm taking a step back. I don't want to rush into anything. But what's the best way for me to figure things out, would you say?
Well, I always say an informed decision maker is a happy decision maker, right? So this is what I would recommend if you're not really in a big hurry and you're just trying to educate yourself in the market. This is what I would do. So I have a tool called Market Watch, okay? And if anybody's interested, you can text me at 330-418-1535 and just say market report, and I'll know what that means. And I just need your email. Here's what I do it for myself too, because even as an agent, I have a lot of tools I can go to find this out. But like when you're busy working and living your best life and you're not really in a hurry and you're just trying to be educated, maybe selling one time, especially this would be boomers too. I'm not really, I don't know if I need to buy first sell. I don't know if I want to take that chance. There's a lot of scary things like that. But I would say the Market Watch is great because what I do is I put in your address. So let's say it's your home. So I put in your address, your email, and I can do it weekly, biweekly, monthly. You'll just get, basically it scrapes the whole internet around your zip code area. It'll show you what homes come on the market, what homes go under contract, what homes are actually sold or fall through. Wow. It shows you what the trends are doing. Are they going up? Are they going down? It'll even give you an estimation. Now, keep in mind, it's an algorithm, that piece of it. So the real value, it's just showing you the trends. And then there's other tabs you can click on to give you more deeper, it goes into schools. It goes into so many more things if you're interested. Now, that on the selling side is just more understanding trends so that you have for personal reasons, for financial planning, for selling, for all kinds of reasons, okay? Now, let's say you do that for yourself, but then you want to downsize eventually to a specific area, maybe with ranch homes, and you can just pick a zip code or an address even. I mean, it's just to pull stuff around a specific area you like. And you could get monthly updates there to see what the trends are in those neighborhoods as well. So as a seller potential or a buyer potential, even if you do nothing, some people just love data.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
And there's a lot of places to get data, but I think one of the things I run into is like, when I go to, like, say, Redfin or Zillow or Realtor.com, those are what's called third-party sites or third-party aggregates, which a lot of the population, I'd say 70% of the population probably go there, and they feel, autonomous, I think, to be able to do what they want. But those are what's called zestimates or estimates and their own valuation part. But really, to get a gut check, you want to have a professional come out and look and give you what the market's doing right now, and that's a more accurate picture based on market data. And then if you go to sell a year later, you always want to reevaluate because the market shifts every couple months. So if you have any questions or concerns, and I promise you I won't bug you, I want you to call, text me, leave me a voicemail. I can't answer this second, but I will soon. Because, I want to get back to you. Call me at 330-418-1535. Call or text. If you want to send me an email, that's fine too. Go to Dominic, DOMINIC, at Dominic Fonte, FONTE.com. send me an email. If you just want to read and research me a little bit, go to DominicFonte.com. Check out the reviews. Read them so you understand what people are experiencing, what their worries are, what their concerns are. And if you're not sure and you like that chat GDP or PDG or however you say it. HBC, 100 years. Type in my name, Dominic Fonte Associates, and see what the internet says, and you'll get a sense of a calm that you'll want to work with me and my team. We're here to help you. We're here to be your GPS. We're here to be your headlights in the dark. My name's Dominic Fonte. I've been doing it 37 years, helped over 2,600 families. I'm here to help you with the heart of a teacher.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today.
Listen up, Gen Xers. Elizabeth Banks here. The recommended age for pneumococcal pneumonia vaccine